this one back here.
Small clips. Not even going to run any audio or anything over here.
Yep.
But yeah, he can do it from right over here. We can stay at it.
Please stand for the prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk, please call the roll.
Council Rourke.
Here.
Council Samaras.
Here.
Council Belanger.
Here.
Council Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Council Leahy.
Here.
Council Leary.
Here.
Council Mercia.
Here.
Council Milanazzo.
Here.
That's 9 present.
Thank you, Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Dockin Chambers for Stanley McQuaid of Lowell, Mass., who passed away June 17th at the age of 69 years old. Stanley was well known to the residents of Lowell and also to many people on the city council. He would have celebrated his 50th wedding anniversary with his wife, Mary Gill. He was born and raised in Lowell, graduated from Lowell schools, and worked for the Lowell Housing Authority for almost 20 years. He was a member of St. Peter's Parish and the DLKV Club of Lowell. One of Stanley's favorite activities was to fish with his grandson, Jonathan, and watch his granddaughter, Brittany, play softball and baseball. He is survived by his daughter, Stephanie, his sons, David and Michael, along with 7 grandkids, many nieces, nephews, and friends. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
First order of business are the approval of the meetings of the City Council for the meeting of June 14th, the approval of the minutes of the Public Safety Subcommittee for June 14th for acceptance. We have a motion to approve. Motion by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Milanazzo. Discussion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. We have 2 public hearings this evening at 7 o'clock. And so moving on to communications from the city manager, we have communications A through N this evening, and we'll start off with A, which is the LED bulletin board at the Lord Overpass. Is there any discussion on item A? Hearing none, we'll move on to item B, which is the St. Hilaire Car Wash. Any discussion on B? Hearing none, we'll move on to Mansion Drive. Any discussion on Mansion Drive? Moving on to the extract narrative portions of the FY17 budget for marketing. Any discussions on that report? Council Samaras.
Thank you. I just would like to thank the city manager and the Department of Planning and Development for the information that they provided. I think it's important. I think, as I stated before, when the budget was given to the city, that a lot of the narration that was included in that budget, I mean, I think is really a great selling point to the city of Lowell. But I'm going to make a request that at some point the Department of Planning and Development come before the Subcommittee on Economic Development, because I think it would be good for the citizens to hear, how does the Department of Planning and Development promote the city of Lowell? What do we say to major corporations that we'd like to see come into the city? Are we out there recruiting some of the chain restaurants or other businesses? What do we do to attract businesses to the city of Lowell? Because I think with that information, one, people understand what we do. Two, it gives the city council a chance to give input into that process to some of the things that we believe should be done or we hear people would like to have done. But I think the more information the city council has, the better off we all are as the city. But I think the Department of Planning and Development is doing a great job, and I think your office in developing the budget did a great job. And by putting these two things together and making a presentation to the Subcommittee on Economic Development, I think we can all help in making Lowell a better place. So I'd like to see that happen, if that's possible. Thank you.
So, Councilor, is it your intention to make a motion to refer this matter to the subcommittee, or are you going to
Yes,
bring it up?
okay, I'd like to make a motion to refer this to the Subcommittee on Economic Development.
Okay, so we have a motion to that effect, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is the update on, an update on Old Ferry Road. Any discussion? Councilor Leary.
Just first, thank you very much for the report. I love the picture you sent in. That was beautiful, modern artwork. Now, I think it's a useful right-hand turn. It makes sense, and thank you for the prompt response to the motion.
Any further discussion? Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I noticed over the past week, the lines are all set. The lights are synced. It's terrific over there now. It's much easier coming across the bridge and getting to Old Ferry. So thank you very much.
Councilor Elliott? Okay. Any other discussion? Councilor Samaras.
No, I think all of us were at some of the meetings held up in Pawtuckettville. This was an important issue to a lot of people. It really was, in a sense, a simple matter to deal with it. But the thing is, I want to thank the administration for really taking it upon themselves to correct the situation that's been of long standing and a concern to the people that live in that area. So, good job. Kudos to the action taken by the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, moving on to the Christian Hill Reservoir. Any discussion on item F? Hearing none, moving on to the UMass expansion and impact on tax revenue. Any discussion on that item? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask the manager, did you meet with the chancellor this week? And I just wanted to see if we can get an update on how that meeting went and the various topics that you met on.
You, Mayor.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Yes, we had a meeting yesterday between the chancellor and her staff and myself and members of my staff relative to a number of issues. Specifically, we were about the ICC tax agreement, responsibility for payment of the Lowell Locks garage repairs that is proportional to the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, University Crossing, and other issues. Just prior to the meeting, the Chancellor presented us with a proposed master agreement that would address all issues that we've been talking about. We went over that just to find out what their position was relative to those different items in the master agreement. We needed time to review their proposal, and we agreed that we would review it and then give our response to them and meet again to work with the master agreement. So I guess the long and short of it is I think things are moving along very well relative to reaching an accord with the University of Mass and the city.
Okay, so do you anticipate, I mean, part of that master agreement, and I know you need time to digest it and bring it forward to the council, is it financial as well as other policy or any other issues that it will include affecting the city?
Yes, not only are there financial issues, but there's policy issues such as we're requesting that the university officials appear before the city council at least once a year to present their master plan to the city council so we can understand what their acquisition thoughts are so that we can plan accordingly when we're formulating our budget. And also other things about improvements to the city. So yes, it's an all-inclusive type of
Okay.
agreement.
Mr. Manager, thank you. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I knew that meeting took place. I know it's been, several topics of discussion in the last couple of weeks, and I do think it's important that we continue to forge that relationship, and they know that moving forward, but we're certainly representing the city's interest, and part of it is financial, knowing that, the property valuation, according to, the assessors, is almost $305 million. That's a significant amount of the $1.6 billion that is non-taxable. So, moving forward, I know that they do make payment in lieu of taxes, but we need to continue to work together on public safety and snow removal, and it's been a good partnership. So that's good to know. I look forward to that master agreement, and they have come before this council on many occasions, and the dialogue has been open, and I know that will continue, and I appreciate the update, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Council Belanger, then Council Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, when do you presume the council will get a copy of this master agreement?
Mr. Manager.
I would think probably in the fall. I mean, it's an all-inclusive agreement, and I can some of the suggestions we had yesterday were summarily dismissed by them, and some of their proposals, it was like any negotiation, is summarily dismissed by us. So it is going to take some time to go back and forth. So I really think that, I don't want to, disappoint anybody, but I would think, in September would be a final product to present to the council for your review and approval. That's my target date.
Okay, thank you.
Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. That was part of my question was, so there was a lot of give and take because in their master plan, as you said, where they're going to present to us, they're still expanding for whatever, another 15 or 200 more residents for their new students coming in by the 2018. So they're going to show us what they would like to acquire, and we're going to have some give and take on that. And I mean, they've got to, I think we need to do a better job with mixing them into the city versus separating the university. If we're going to be a college town, they've got to mix in, not be their own entity around the city.
Mr. Manager.
I don't envision them including in the master agreement what their plans are for acquisition or construction. I envision their presentation to us, at least on an annual basis, of their master plan to include what they envision acquiring or constructing in the city.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to an update on the pilot revenue. Any discussion on that item? Council Leary.
Just quick, I noticed in that there was I know maybe Mayor, you put this motion on a while ago to have like a special act. There's a couple of bills that are pending. Maybe we should do something to support that, I guess, in terms of making, this is something that, 25% might be a lot, it might not be something that's feasible, but giving you some type of negotiating leverage to certain folks simply ignore us. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to name folks, but there's a few of them who can pay 25%, and they pay very little. So I don't know if we should want to think about that in terms of actually supporting this legislation. I haven't read it, so I don't want to make that in the form of a motion. But maybe in the next meeting, if we could take a look at what the actual piece of legislation, what the actual documents contain, maybe we can do that going forward. But I thought that was an interesting idea. I know that, Mayor, that this council, with your motion, actually tried to do that. And I think they actually ruled that it was unconstitutional to have, I think what you did was, essentially make it a, just within the city of Lowell, and it was summarily dismissed. So if we could get at least that legislation for the council to take a look at, maybe that's something we want to support, maybe it's something we don't. But I like that idea. It was an interesting avenue to obtain at least some leverage in discussions with some of the folks in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a very inclusive motion response. I want to thank the Assessor's Office, Susan LeMay, for very detailed, and it's stunning the amount of tax-exempt properties that we have in the city, and this is detailed property by property. But, I mean, I know all eyes currently are on the university for their recent purchase, and I understand that, but there are several large, Lowell General Hospital is a very large parcel, which tax revenue would be several $1 million if. So I don't know, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager and my colleagues about the feasibility about a pilot task force committee, which was formed in Boston, to look at all these nonprofits and higher education and healthcare industry that, I think it's maybe about time we take a look at this. So I don't know how palatable it is to my colleagues or the manager about the establishment of a pilot task force committee to look at all these services and take a good look to see what we can bring in for revenue for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Belanger. In this report, you include the idea of what would happen with the Pilot Task Force Commission, and I think that's a direction we should go in. But I'd also think that perhaps we could cut the list down to, say, 10 of the top potential participants in this process. I just don't really see us including some of these storefront nonprofits that make very little money that exist day by day. But I'm talking about places like Lowell General Hospital, CTI, programs like that are a major force in the city and do have a lot of property. But the idea of forming a task force, I think, would help the city manager and his staff address this problem. So I agree with Councilor Belanger. I think it's an important next step, and I would hope the rest of the council would agree with that. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What would be Mr. Manager, what would the potential outcomes be? I mean, I think our nonprofits have gotten the message, quite frankly. We see $100,000 coming in from Lowell General. We did get a report from the Community Teamwork Incorporated on what their contributions are. Lowell General Hospital, Lowell Housing Authority, they make their contributions. Do you anticipate more opportunity, or do you think it might be more advantageous for you and the assessors to reach out personally versus a task force that would seemingly have more of a directive to it versus having you reach out and work in a cooperative manner? I mean, $100,000 for opiate addiction, that is a payment in lieu of taxes, in my opinion. So I guess my long-winded question would be, what would be the final expectation if we're looking at limiting the number of that we're going to, and I agree, I think there is a threshold where you have nonprofits that are barely making ends meet. So from there on up, if there's 10, if there's 10 or 15, do you think is a task force warranted?
Mr. Manager.
Or is it?
We've been doing a lot of research relative to the issues affecting tax exempt. And one of the things is we've compiled CAD calls of our police and fire to the different tax-exempt organizations. It's amazing how much public safety services we provide to tax-exempt organizations like Lowell General Hospital. You can just imagine on the weekend how many times our police department has to respond to the emergency room. In other tax-exempt organizations, we provide incredible services too. And I granted, Lowell General Hospital gave us $100,000, but if you look at this report, if they were paying their fair share of taxes, it would be up by $1 million.
Right.
I'd like to sit down with some of these tax-exempt organizations and find out from them face-to-face why they don't feel they should contribute as a payment in lieu of taxes. And, find out, listen to them, and see if they have a reasonable reason for it, and then pursue it as it goes. But I think I'd like to talk to them as a group invite them to see if they would come in. Take the top 10 off this list and ask them to come in and discuss the proprieties of payment in lieu of taxes for the city. And I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Mr. Manager. Invite them and provide them with the statistics on police calls or snow removal or those big cost items that taxpayers are paying for. And I think point was made. In light, we understand that a nonprofit, but part of nonprofits is, those funds go to salaries, and they're significant. They also hire employees. We understand. So I think there is a good relationship, but making them aware of and I think that will help these organizations that are that they're a big part of the city. And they, not only in jobs, but also in partnerships throughout any cause that we have in the city. So I think that dialogue will go a long way to explaining to them where we are financially, the services that we do provide that do not cost them anything, and how can we find some common ground to to continue this relationship and not start creating barriers that this is what we do and that's what you do. And so we need their help, but I think there's your approach is a good approach. Thank you.
Council Leary.
I think first your approach is a really good approach. I want to agree with Councilor Elliott. I think reaching out to them and face-to-face is even better. I think providing that information and then following up is the right way to go. I think if you have some direct benefit from that, then I think it's a good thing. It's a good working relationship. If you don't, then I think the other two areas, what Councilor Belanger suggested, might be the other part where we need to go to. But I think what you've done so far, I know you've done this with Lowell General, giving them that information in terms of how many police calls, et cetera, are there. I think that's a great start. It's intelligent. I think now really kind of like any marketing pitch, really kind of go out and really sit down and speak with them and have that dialogue. That's intelligent. I totally support that. If it doesn't work, then we go the other way. I would like to get a copy of some of the legislation if it's not too broad, just to kind of see if it's something that's positive, and if it is, and if it's needed, then we can take other actions. But I think there's some good ideas here, and I think it's in the right course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. Any discussion on item I? Councilor Belanger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank the manager, his administration, and planning development for the rather extensive reports. But, Mr. Manager, we have two packets in our packet this week. One is inspection report dated May of 2016 that indicate improvements totaling to about $3.2 million. And I have a thicker study here from the McGuire Group dated 2005, and that dates over 10 years old, and that's about $22 million. So I have conflicting reports here. It just seems that $3.2 million is on the very low end of this. So I'd like an explanation here. We got two different conflicting reports. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
How you doing? Okay.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Todd Wokel from the Division of Planning and Development is here. If you could address the councilor's question as to the difference between the two figures.
Yes, well, what you're looking at here is a report that was done in 2005, which reflected a report that was a best guess estimate that was $22 million. If you look at the recommendations that were taken back in 2005, they were what I would call ostentatious, very expensive, the recommendations. We've tried to align over the last 11 years from 2005 on. We've made an investment of $5 million, a little over $5 million. With that investment, we've been able to take care of many of the items that they listed on the report from McGuire. So I'll give you an example. In the McGuire Group, they one of their recommendations was to replace the fixed seating in the building at a cost of $1.2 million. We're in the process currently of reupholstering the chairs at $138,000. So there's $1 million in savings there, right? Another example would be the changing of the curtain, the stage curtain. They had a $240,000 budgeted in the McGuire Group. We just replaced that curtain for $40,000. So it's very inconsistent, their project estimates. And this is going on if you look at the what's been spent to date. My recommendations, I feel I've had over 25 years' experience in the construction industry. We've made considerable progress on many fronts. We've replaced the boiler system this past September. We've seen a reduction in gas consumption by 47%, which is a great, great attribute to the city, which is a saving of over $15,000. So we've always tried to align projects accordingly. Currently, we're in the process right now of replacing the flooring in the auditorium on the concourse, new carpeting. We're doing upgrades. Let's see, and also we're looking at other areas we're looking to invest in down the road. Our investments in the concession areas, new kitchen equipment, bathroom facilities, looking to upgrade the bathroom facilities, adding controls to the heating systems. We've replaced the boilers in the auditorium that cover the exterior, or the exterior walls of the auditorium. We'd look to expand on the halls of flags and also the executive offices and replacing those heating systems and getting better controls on those systems and looking at interior renovations to the also painting interior, things like that. So.
Council Belanger.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Todd. Well, thank you. You're saying that the McGuire Group report in 2005 was basically sky high, is artificially high, and much of the work has been done. What percentage do you estimate has been done? But to go to 22 down to 3, I'm a little worried. I'm just hoping, Todd, that this number, it's still a lot of money, but it's well under what I anticipate. I anticipate at least twice this.
Right. See, what it is, too, is our department's been very effective in overseeing these projects. I've written the scope and specifications on these jobs. Now, if we were to take, an example would be, if we were to take $3.2 million and go out on a bond for something like this, what we want to do is stage this project. In other words, we'd want to stage, like, the exterior elevations, the masonry, and stage it over a course of 3 to 4 years. And then the profit margins with these contractors is considerably higher. And what we would be doing is reducing that. And by doing that, I think that would be the best approach to do it.
Okay.
And that's how we've been able to reduce the total cost of these projects.
That sounds more palatable. I mean, if you're going to expand this to a 4-year capital plan, we're talking about $800,000 a year. That's more palatable than what I anticipated. So in a sense, I'm happy. I'm just concerned, but I trust your judgment and your experience in this department. So what would be our next move here? If it's, we have I believe about $250,000 in the ticket fund, I guess, towards repairs, right?
Yes.
I think if my memory serves me correct, which comes far under what's needed here. So what would be your next move from here? What would you anticipate?
I believe we need to look at the fire escape. We need to look at mechanical systems and look at those areas and sidewalks, exterior sidewalks, and repointing of the stairs, elevations on the exterior need to be repointed. Look at those areas and capitalize on that.
Okay, are those costs in here?
Yes.
They are, okay.
Yes, they are.
All right. Okay, if you think those are immediate, we look forward to, Todd, why don't you come up with a capital plan, a 3 or 4 year plan, or what you think, how we should carry this out, and use your best judgment. I look forward to your future responses. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You all set, Council?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move on to the road work on Nesmith Street. Any discussion on that? Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you, the manager, just one quick question. It says they're not going to disturb much, but I mean, you would think logically they're going to take a foot out of that whole sidewalk and then that wall that's up. Does anybody know if they're taking that wall down at least between Park Street or?
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayo, is along Kittredge Park, is that where the sidewalk is going to be affected on this widening project?
The sidewalk on both sides of the street will be impacted. The only impact to Kittredge Park is there is some granite around the outside edges.
Yeah.
They will be removing it just so that they don't damage it, and they're going to serialize it so they can put it back in the same place. Some of the pieces right now are tipped,
Right.
and so when they put it back, they're going to reset it. So everything's going to be,
I imagine they're gonna take like a foot,
no,
not even.
it'll go back in exactly the same location.
And then what about the wall, the knee wall on the next section? From Willow Street down to the corner of East Merrimack?
On the same side as Kittredge
Yeah,
Park?
same side.
The wall at the back of the sidewalk will remain where it is.
Really? Okay. All right, it just seems pretty narrow. I thought if they were gonna do it, they'd, because you can't get a tractor trailer and a car down there, it's pretty tight.
The
So
two
I thought
places-
the whole project was gonna be to widen it so it'd be more comfortable for traffic to flow better.
The two places they're going to be able to gain real estate is the sidewalk in front of Kittredge, and on that side of Nesmith Street is high.
Yeah,
So what they're going to be doing is they're going to put a retaining wall at the front edge of the sidewalk with a railing, but that grass area that comes down, that's 2 or 3 feet. So they're going to gain that. And on the other side of the street, that sidewalk right now is actually 10 feet wide. It'll only be 5 feet wide, which is what we have through the rest of the city.
okay,
So those are the two places where they're gaining real estate to be able to make the widening.
okay. All right, thank you.
Any further, before you leave it, just as a point of information, I think it's the eastern side of the street, the easterly side of the street between East Merrimack and Chestnut. That's where that wall is. You're saying nothing's gonna be done there? In other words, you'd be making where the Kittredge Park portion 3 feet wider, but then not doing anything with that wall for that section in between Chestnut and East Merrimack Street? Is that what you're saying?
Between Chestnut and, yes, correct.
Then don't you end up creating this like hourglass thing? Doesn't it have to all funnel back in anyways?
No, the wall between Chestnut and East Merrimack and the wall at Kittredge align with each other. So that the back of the sidewalk is the edge of the right-of-way.
Okay.
And so the work off the right-of-way, the only work they'll be doing there will be to maintain what they've got.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item?
It does look like they're going to have their public hearing on July 28th. And they're working with the library to book the conference room there. They're just waiting to confirm that. So that will be, I think it's 7 o'clock on the 28th. We'll let you know when we get the confirmation, but that's what they're shooting for right now.
Okay, thank you. If not, we'll move on. If there's no further discussion, we'll move on to the residential housing versus commercial development at Connector Park. Council Leary.
Just, first of all, it's mere conjecture now anyway, but thank you for taking the time. I know, Mr. Manager, you and I have spoke at it at length. Thank you for not only in this report, but other issues that didn't make the report regarding typical issues that are out there. I guess the question built to suit offices about being speculative. I get that. That's pretty common sense. I guess the whole premise I was really thinking of is you're looking at marketing areas to bring in technology companies, technology or light manufacturing. This is a lost opportunity for it. I did go through I looked at the parking space analysis. I understand it. I do appreciate the numbers. It will be, from a financial standpoint, it appears, as long as everything lines up, it'll be $500,000. That's positive. That's not a negative. I guess looking long-term, as you're looking for these opportunities, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, which is not much, it's not a positive thing. I hope I'm proved to be wrong. If I'm proved to be wrong, that'd be a good thing. I think you're really not going to know to 5-10 years down the road to see exactly how this pans out. And that's kind of, it is what it is at this point in time. So I wasn't in favor of the residential project. It has been passed. I'll do everything I can to support it, obviously, at this point. And I do appreciate you really getting involved and helping answer a lot of the questions that I had. That definitely, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I, too, was a proponent of allowing just commercial development for this area. But in reading the report was a good report, and I think a complete report. And the report talks about, although this land was zoned for high-rise commercial development, there's not enough parking to satisfy a high-rise. So I was a little concerned about that issue. But this reports, and I think a lot of people that do watch the city council meetings, a number of people have raised the issue to me, saying, I hope you support commercial development of that particular property. But I think it's important that they now know that basically it was zoned for high-rise, but not really equipped to handle high-rise, basically because of parking. So that's clear and understandable. And the residential housing will bring in quite a bit of money to the tax coffers. So I'm pleased with this report, but I think at some point, we might have to be thinking about the Hamilton Canal for high-rise areas or some other part of the city that down the road could handle companies that might want to come in and do something like Cross Point, because I think Cross Point is now a very important part of the Lowell scene. But again, thank you for this report, and I think this will help clear up why we're doing this to a lot of people that do pay attention to these matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did support this project from the get-go because now we're talking about 240 market-rate luxury apartments in the vicinity of very close proximity to the highway. So these are people that are bringing in disposable income to our city, which we very well need. I'm just wondering about these buildings. Is it pet-friendly or it isn't? Do we know that? Because such as in Perkins Park, they love what they have there, market-rate housing at one point, but it's pet-friendly. Is this development not, or hasn't it been decided yet?
Through the manager. Go ahead.
Mr. Slagle,
We do love animals, but
Mr. Slagle, do you know if it's pet-friendly?
At this time, I don't believe that sort of kind
It
of
hasn't been
operating
dis-
plan has
it
been
hasn't been
decided.
discussed
It wasn't.
yet.
It was not something that they presented to the board. So I don't know exactly whether that's. It wasn't a condition, and I don't believe that they've made that sort of
it's a
operating decision.
tax-paying entity, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, absolutely. Let's hope that 8 or 10 years down the road, it isn't sold to a nonprofit student high-rise, and these people will be having the rug pulled right out of them, too. I'm going to say that every time. I won't probably be around here 10 years, but please, remember what I said, because this is very important that we sustain people into this city that have a vested interest to spend their money, that we have property that is on the tax roll, and I'm going to keep drilling it in until this entity stops. That's my spiel here.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger and then the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do understand some of the sentiment from my colleagues, how, the commercial development aspect is something, Mr. Mayor, I know you expressed a little frustration, this being a high-rise district, and we'd all, Councilor Samaras and Leary, we'd all like to see a high-rise commercial glass building there without question, okay? But this developer looked into that, okay? This developer did its due diligence. And something that bears mentioning is that before Kronos came into Cross Point, that was about a third vacant. Okay, they're occupying a whole tower out of the 3 towers and then some. So that was struggling a tad up till Kronos, luckily, which the manager and administration and DBT worked diligently to land. So this company did its due diligence, all the research. There's far more money in renting commercial space than there is residential. It's far more lucrative, and I'm sure this developer would have much rather have done that. But the market just wasn't there, unfortunately, okay? We're dealing with the Middlesex Street corridor with Burlington, Bedford, Billerica, Chelmsford, and they're all jockeying for the same thing we are. And I think with all that being said, I think we're doing fantastic in the grand scheme of things. So what I've learned on my time serving on a land use board prior to getting elected is that sometimes you have to settle with what's in front of you than what you may not always get what you want. And I think to not support this project and to sit and wait for a commercial high-rise would not be the best interest of the city. I think that could be a long, long ordeal and potentially never happen. I don't like to say that, but that's the chance we could be taking. So I think this is a great project along the Gateway. It's a very attractive building. I think it's going to attract young millennials who are being priced out of Boston and greater Boston. Housing has become far too expensive. Now, the breakdown is 240 units, only 6 3-bedroom units out of the 240. 31 two-bedrooms, and the other 165 some odd are studios and 1 bedroom. This is not going to be a big strain on the schools and our services. It's really not. I think it's going to be a great project for us. Again, we'd all like a high-rise commercial. There's no two ways about it. With a Fortune 500 company in there, if it was up to us, that's what we'd like. But we don't always get what we'd like. When it comes to economic development, we have to settle, I think, in this case, for what's in front of us, and I think it's a great project with a great developer, and it's going to do justice for our city in creating young millennials with disposable income, and I think this project achieves that, and I supported it from the get-go. So thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Council. You can't always get what you want, you get what you need. Is that the gist of it? Councilor Elliott?
Go on, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question either for you, Mr. Manager, or Mr. Slagle. If the owners did decide to make this pet-friendly, do they require a special permit or any variance to build a dog park or a place? Because that's the attractive nature. At Perkins was an area for people, because I think it's a niche for market rate housing where there are not a lot of complexes that allow pets, and that was clearly the attraction. So I think it's something that I know we can't require it, but certainly if there's no major obstacles that have to be overcome to do that,
Mr. Manager?
it's a good thing.
Mr. Slagle, would they require any permits to do a dog park there, or any to allow it to be pet-friendly?
There wouldn't be any there's no requirements in our zoning that have anything to do with making.
I guess it's just an open area where dogs, where
Yeah, it's
tenants.
pet friendly. I wouldn't say that they could just do a dog park without any kind of oversight, because it all depends on what kind of infrastructure they wanted to put in. It's close to some wetlands, so they might be required to come to the Conservation Commission if they decide to do some elaborate dog park. But to make it pet friendly, there's nothing in the zoning that would prevent them from doing that.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, and in answer to Councilor Mercia's question, and a credit to the developer, is that we requested that a covenant be included in the grant that they could not sell to a tax-exempt entity in the future, and if they did sell to a tax-exempt entity, they would have to enter into a pilot agreement to pay those taxes. And so this developer agreed to it and made it part of the request.
Well, see, can I comment, please? That's what it's all about. That is thinking down the road for the future of our taxpayers. That's what it's all about. That's why I was very disappointed with the planning board for not allowing this caveat to be in there. I'm very pleased to hear that. Can I say another thing, segueing into what we're talking about? I know that we need a new dog park because the water utility is going to need that area where we have a dog park. And I know where they can put in a brand-new dog park. It's already almost there. If you go down Boston Road, which is very close to this development, behind Olivera Field is there's a great spot of land, and that would make a beautiful dog park. I'm just so you think of what I just said. Check it out. I already checked it out, and it's close to your building that you're going to have in the same somewhat neighborhood. It's not far away. Well, that's something to think about. I'm sorry to segue in, but there are plans, and that could be part of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on this item? If not, we have 2 more items that are informational. One is we have the South Common. Excuse me. Any discussion on the South Common? Hearing none, we'll move on to summer programs. Any discussion on summer programs? And moving on, for the last one is development services fine revenue. Any, Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question to the manager. So I'm looking at the report, the one-time windfalls, those are the numbers that are in parentheses next to the 4 separate fine categories?
Why don't you, have Mr. Baldwin answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The number in parentheses is revenue generated from liens being placed on the third quarter tax bills. This is we've gotten better at this process, so we've been able to capture more revenue from that. Typically, that's just sat attached to the property from liens, but we've been able to put it on the tax bill and collect that revenue. So in this last year, we've seen a spike.
Okay, so all these numbers that are in front of us, these are numbers that have all been collected so far by the city?
That is correct. The numbers that are in front of you that's the revenue we've actually generated so far in FY16. This is actually as of the week after the budget, so it's increased since then, but that's as of that.
Just in this year.
Right, so the city, your department, Mr. Slagle, has collected $250,000 just in the fiscal year 16. Yeah, it's an amazing job, number one. It's also a great stat. It's something that I think myself and many other councilors here, have requested and asked for maybe, a couple more inspectors that can go out and do this work. I mean, it seems like, this department is paying for itself and then some, as far as, getting out there, not only collecting revenue, but also making the neighborhoods, better to live in, better looking, and more livable. So I know it's been brought to your attention many times before, Mr. Manager, but I mean, with these numbers coming in, that's a huge number. And if reading the report at the bottom, it does say that you're looking for a more steady stream of yearly as a result. So it's also a good thing for the future. So I mean, I think it, once again, not to repeat myself, but to say that this department not only pays for itself, but also adds a whole bunch to the neighborhoods. I think is a credit to the administration and to DPD. And so I think anything that can be done maybe to increase that staff over there, I think would be a benefit to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we talk about tax liens here, I'm very curious about a piece of property on Andover Street, 887 Andover Street. Beautiful home, overgrown with weeds. I believe that it's in the process of being overtaken by the bank. There are no taxes that are owed to the city, but I see it as a waste of a beautiful home that could be used enjoyed by a family. Why is that left vacant for all these years? Is it mildew or mold or what's going on? I'd like to know about 887 Andover Street.
Mr. Manager?
So we'll get a report on 887 Andover Street
Thank you.
and give it in a future council
right,
motion
thank you.
response.
Council Lee?
Thank you. Just on that property, Eric, we've had discussions over the last few years about the lawn getting cut. So I think you know about that property, but it's all overgrown again, so we need to contact the number to have them cut the grass at least.
We'll take care of that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Council Rowe?
And just a quick question, concerning that property of other properties in a similar state, would it be possible, Mr. Manager, if, say 887 Andover Street, if the city went in and did the upkeep, periodically, if it's vacant, and then charging that cost to a lien, is that something the city can do or does do now?
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Slagle, can you?
Yes, we in the past years, the Development Services has had a contract with a board up company that we do board ups of vacant or fire damaged properties, and we can take those board up costs and put them in the lien. This year, for the first time, at Sean Shanahan's suggestion, the building commissioner's suggestion, we altered the scope of the work so that company will also be doing minor cleanups for us on those sites. So that would enable us to get a bill for any kind of other additional work that we have the company do on site, and then we could put as a lien on the property that could roll in the third quarter tax bill, as the CFO had mentioned.
Right, and then a question would be, what would be the timeline if you get a complaint or a phone call from, whether it be a resident or a councilor? What's, you try to contact the the property owner, or if it's even bank owned, how soon, as Council Mercer stated about that property on Andover Street, how soon can you get there to do the work or to have the company do the work and then start the process of attaching it to the tax lien?
Typically for the first time issues that come up, we do try to give the property owners the ability to take care of the problems themselves. For something like overgrowth, it wouldn't be like a 24-hour issue. We would probably give them 2 to 3 weeks before we'd have a follow-up inspection to see if they've taken care of it. At that time, it would be at the determination of the building commissioner as to whether or not we escalated it to actually have the work done ourselves, or have a contractor do it. And as soon as that's done, we have the ability to put a lien on the property. And typically, we do notify the property owners if we've done work on their property to give them the opportunity to pay it prior to a lien. But at that point in time, we'd have the ability to put it into a lien.
And if necessary, could the same protocol be put in place for snow removal, for sidewalks?
We currently don't have a contract with anyone to do snow removal. That's not something that we have any, so we don't have anyone we could hire to do snow removal. I don't know. I don't think it's in anybody's, I think our snow removal capacity is probably tapped, but I would refer that to the.
Just curiosity. Okay. Well, by and large, again, it's a terrific report, and I think it's a real credit to the city and to the department. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, that can, Councilor Elliott.
This doesn't have to do with the report, but while Eric is here, I guess it would be a motion to suspend just to bring up an item that came. I actually received some calls over the weekend, and we got an email on it today, and I'm wondering if the problem has been solved, and the topic would be roosters in South Lowell.
All right, Councilor Elliott is asking for a suspension of the rules by
So
general
moved.
consent. Hearing no objection, we'll suspend the rules to talk about roosters.
Just briefly, I'm wondering if you have made an inspection, because we actually received a address today in an email, and I get calls over the weekend of these two roosters that are wreaking havoc throughout South Lowell, which means someone has chickens in the city, and we have an
Right, so-
ordinance against it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We did receive that report. Dave Ouellette, who's the senior health inspector, was scheduled to go out this afternoon to inspect the property. His protocol would be, if in fact there were roosters there, they would be written a warning and told that they needed to have that removed. I don't know if he managed, I don't know at this time whether or not he did manage to speak to someone on site or find out whether or not there were actually roosters there.
Thank you, that's all, as long as it's being addressed and the people at home watching from South Lowell
We are
will know
addressing
that they're tracking down the roosters. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more discussion, that concludes the communications from the city manager. The chair would entertain a motion to accept them and place them on file by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Mercia. Further discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Being shortly after 7 o'clock, we'll go to the public hearings. The first public hearing is for Pace Energy, a request for additional fuel storage of 25,000 gallons of gasoline and 5,000 gallons of diesel fuel in underground tanks at 710 Lakeview Avenue. I will open the hearing for those who wish to speak in favor. Does anybody wish to speak in favor? In favor? In favor?
Hi, I am Anand Patel. I am owner of business Pace Energy, and he's Brian. He's a contractor, and he's replaced the tank. I have to add the diesel and tank size, so he can explain to you.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Hughes. I'm here to support Andy. For the state of Massachusetts, he has to remove his underground storage tanks by August of 2017. In being proactive, Andy's here tonight looking for an increase of storage to build a new efficient facility for himself. And I have any questions, I can help answer those for Andy.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. We'll close the hearing on behalf of the proponents and open it up to those who wish to speak in opposition. Does anybody wish to speak in opposition? In opposition? 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 Hearing none. We'll close the hearing and open it up to the city council. What's the pleasure of the council? Do we have a motion to approve? We have a motion approved by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Mercia.
Mr. Mayor, did we have any recommendation from the fire chief?
Mr. Manager?
Yes, the fire chief has approved this application for the fuel storage.
All right, second.
Okay. So we have a motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
The next public hearing is to create a new position of working foreman electrician grade 8, master's level and establish a salary in the Department of Public Works and modify certain job titles. We'll open up the hearing for those who wish to speak in favor. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor?
Good evening, I'm Ralph Snow, I'm the Commissioner of Public Works. I'd like to speak in favor of this ordinance to create a new working foreman position within the electrical division. Currently, the city electrician is the only person in the electrical division that has any authority over the other members in the electrical division. In his absence, there lacks a defined chain of command to carry out essential duties and to assume responsibility during emergencies. This requires him to carry a cell phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, whether he's at work, whether he's at home, or whether he's away on vacation. Creating this position would afford the electrical division a licensed master electrician that would be able to assume the duties of the city electrician in his absence, and it would also create a more efficient chain of command within the division without increasing or decreasing the number of positions in the division and without adding to the overall salary and wages budget required in the division.
Thank you. Anybody else wishes to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing on behalf of the proponents and open it up for those who wish to speak in opposition. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing on behalf of the opponents and open it up to the City Council. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Council Milonazo, second by Council Elliott. Discussion on the motion, Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Mayor, are there any positions that are being lost in this, or is it just a change in title for one person?
Mr. Manager?
No positions are being lost.
So just we're adding one position to the,
Yes.
to the DPW?
Yeah.
And everything else stays the same, we're just adding a position?
Yeah, in one of the, no, we're not adding a position. No. It's one of the existing members of the electrical department will assume this position.
Okay, so maybe I heard wrong, but I thought Commissioner Snow said that we have one electrician right now that does all the work.
Yes.
So that person will stay in that position, and then we'll have one more, I guess, supervisory role?
Yes, what happens is that the head electrician has to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there is no person that really is second in command. So what we're doing is we're creating a position of second in command so that when this person can take over and carry the cell phone in Mr. Kuchu's absence. But we won't be creating any more positions, just changing the name of the position of one of the people already there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I plan to support the ordinance, but I thought it might be appropriate to just thank Commissioner Snow for his service. We did receive an email from the city manager, and he's retiring, I believe it was July 15th. I know we have one more meeting on July 12th, but I really don't know if he was going to be at the meeting, but I just wanted to publicly thank him for his service. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Councilor Elliott.
Sorry, just real quick. So is there an anticipation that because this individual is on call all the time, that I presume that kicks in overtime now there'll be another employee that'll be a master electrician that will they save on overtime, I guess is my question. Or is there any overtime associated with this?
Mr. Manager.
Yes, this will save on overtime because there'll be an ordinance position and they won't be paid overtime for the calls that they respond to.
Very good. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercier.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
That concludes the public hearings. Moving back to the agenda to item 3.2 is a communication from the city manager requesting out-of-state travel for one person from the Lowell Police Department and one person from the library. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Roll call. Roll call, I'm sorry.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have 3 items. Counsel Milonazo.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to suggest a move that we bundle item 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3
Second the bundle.
as one
Okay.
vote.
And to move to approve?
Yes, move to approve.
All right, so we have a motion to bundle 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and approve all 3 items.
Yes.
Seconded by Counsel Mercia. Discussion on the motion, roll call.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
It's 9 yeas.
Next, we have 7 items that involve transfers, end-of-the-year transfers. Counsel Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could make a suggestion that we bundle 4 to 410.
Okay. We have a motion by Counsel Rourke to bundle items 4.4 through 4.10 and approve all of those items. Seconded by Counsel Leary. Discussion on the motion. Counsel Elliott.
I just have one question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager or CFO. On items, there are 3 items relative to debt service associated with refunding, close to $1 million. Can you just explain those additional costs? So there's 890, 71,000, 890,000, 71,000, and almost 87,000.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. To address your question, this is related to a refunding bond that was issued back in the fall, a $39 million refunding, as well as a new money issue. In order to realize savings over the life of the bond, for the refunding, we had to make a cash contribution to the refunding escrow, which required monies to be put into the escrow in this year that weren't budgeted. And because the purposes were in the general fund as well as the enterprise funds, it was in excess of the amount budgeted for debt service. We're able to use surplus appropriations from within the existing budgets for each of the funds in order to cover those deficits in this year. However, it was to realize future savings in every single one, positive cash flow in every single one of the years for the life of the bonds that were refunded.
Exactly. And what is that amount going to be on an annual basis that we're going to be realizing as a result of this? So I mean, we're putting money up ahead of time, but we'll realize those savings in the out years.
The total savings that we realized from the refunding bond was somewhere to the tune of $400,000 to $500,000 gross. We had to share some of that savings with the school building authority because we were refunding some projects that were subsidized by the MSBA, and that netted it down to somewhere about $200,000 to $300,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the 7 transfers? Counsel Leahy.
Just on 4.4, where I'm on the commission, do I vote on that one? Maybe to the solicitor? Yeah, okay.
I would say that
Where I'm on the
you can, because you don't get any, you or your family doesn't get any personal benefit from the
Right.
20,000. So you're safe to
Okay.
vote on it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Counsel Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Are we even with our snow and ice account now? We're all balanced up, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, finally. Took
Counsel
forever.
Milonazo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On 4.7, where the money is being transferred from, we have health insurance, almost 300,000, per-act assessment, 143,000, and unemployment of 100,000. My question has to do with why is $550,000 available at this point in the fiscal year? I guess, I don't know if it's through attrition or if I could just hear either from the city manager or from the CFO as to why that money is there.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you.
Yes, I asked Mr. Baldwin the same question, so he has an excellent answer.
I'm sure he does. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The savings that we realized in the health insurance account, and we had somewhat of this discussion last year during this time last year, we made a large transfer from health insurance to cover some of last year's snow and ice overage. This year, The savings comes because we typically budget very conservatively for health insurance. So if you rewind 1 year ago today, as we were a little bit earlier than today, as we were preparing the budget for fiscal 16, the reports out of the state, because the state sets our the health insurance premium shares for all of the plans, because we're part of the GIC, the projected rates were about 8% increase. Now, we set the budget based on those projections, and as we realized the actual increases, they were much less. So we saw savings there. We also, as we entered into open enrollment season where employees are able to change their plans, we saw a lot of employees switching over to the indemnity plan. However, once all was said and done with open enrollment, a lot of those employees were on the school side. So you saw earlier this fiscal year, the school department needed to execute a transfer for their health insurance to cover overage. However, on our side, we're pretty significantly under our conservative budget. So it's a part of 2 of these transfers that are on the agenda today. And even with these 2 transfers and our contractual obligation to the PEC to contribute to the mitigation fund, we're still going to have a surplus of about $100,000.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank
Any
you.
further discussion? Councilor Elliott.
And where does, just follow up, where does that 100,000, that go into the health, that health insurance mitigation fund or back to the general fund?
The $250,000, the $250,000 will go to the mitigation fund. The remaining $100,000 will fall to free cash with the rest of the city's unexpended balances at the end of the year.
So 2-year trend, we see continued reduction in healthcare costs. Any anticipation that that will continue, which is a good thing. This is one of those budget busters that we've made the difficult decision. I guess looking into your crystal ball, what does the state look at when they come in with their projection for the year?
They look at enrollment numbers. They look at claims figures from all of the different plans. There's about a dozen plans that are offered, so they negotiate with each of the plans, and using their buying power as a big organization such as the state, they're able to manage those down as best possible. You know, when we were with Blue Cross Blue Shield and self-insured, we were seeing on average 9 to 11% increases each year. We've seen that decrease to approximately 3 to 4% increases, so it's steadied. And, we've sort of bent the curve in terms of spikes in health insurance. However, we're still going to see it rise, just not to the same level that it was over the period of the early 2000s into the recession. So we hope, I certainly hope it's going to remain flat as possible, but, I can't tell you that it's not going to increase. And as we mentioned before, these are the city's share. We've seen the employees' share increase on their end.
Right, but this is what we had to do 5 years ago, 6 years ago, as you mentioned. 10, 11, 12, 13% on a consistent basis that was going on the tax rate. So I think it was a challenge to go to GIC, and I know change is hard, but we're realizing these savings. It would be interesting to see at some point in time, Mr. Manager and Mr. Baldwin, since we joined, what exactly the aggregate savings has been, and I will probably put that in the form of a motion because it's significant and it allows us to use tax dollars for many, many other things, particularly I would say our capital improvements. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the follow-up.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next is a vote for the continuation of the fiscal year 2017 revolving funds. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. Discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Next is in order to abandon Parcel A, the driveway to Prince Company, portion of Prince Avenue, and a portion of Carter Street. There's registered speakers for this, but it's also, the proper motion would be to refer to a public hearing for July 12th, 2016 at 7 PM. Can we hear from the speaker? Councilman Milonazo.
I'm just wondering if we should suspend the rules and take up 10.3. It looks like it's basically the same.
Yes,
Item.
we'll include 10.3 if there's no objection.
Okay, thank you.
So do we have a motion to send that to a public hearing? Motion to send it to public hearing, seconded by Council Rourke, and we have speakers on the motion. Registered speakers? So you call them speakers.
Jacob Fortes.
Hello, City Council. My name is Jacob Fortes. I live at 36 Iowa Street in Lowell. So I was just here 2 weeks ago when the Markley Group had requested and received permission from the City of Lowell to put 32,000, summing a total of 32,000 gallons worth of diesel fuel directly behind my house. Now, I did invite, when I found out that this was on the agenda this week, I did invite the city councilors to visit my property to see why I am so advocating against the closure of the roadway. Since the city council did vote to approve those tanks, which weren't originally supposed to be there, the roadway now more than ever needs to stay open for the fire department access. I did print out and take a picture from my back door for those who did not come over and take up the invite, but this is directly from the back door of my house. This looks directly onto the Markley Group property, and right there is where you're sticking those tanks. And directly in front of those are going to be 4 generators. This is literally right at my back door. So with that said, you can understand why I keep coming here over and over again to get your attention about this particular matter. Now the time has come where the street is actually going to be closed off. This is why I originally brought it to your attention back in March. So now the closest firehouse to my house is the one that's on Gorham Street. I live on the other side of where they're proposing to close. Now the corner of Gorham and Moore Street is perpetually hung up for different reasons. Meineke muffler fire, the low clearance bridge when a truck gets wedged underneath there, and it floods. Now every time we've been told that things are going to change in this area, and it never does. That whole intersection needs redevelopment. Has it been done yet? No, it has not. Is it on the agenda to ever be done? Not in the foreseeable future, yet this is. We're taking action and putting a cart before a horse. Nothing has been done yet that the Markley Group has said for safety that they're going to do. And yet we're going to vote on this fairly soon and put it up for a public hearing. With that said, I just want to look at their plans tonight. They don't have them readily available for you, but last time we were here, they showed you a perimeter road that goes all around the property that they're claiming that the City of Lowell Fire Department will have access to. Some of the city councilors who have come to the property have seen that road does not exist. It's nowhere close to completion. The Markley Group has not taken any action on that roadway or forming that roadway in quite some time. How you can tell? Because there's grass growing where there should be a roadway. So how are they going to rescue my house from their new tanks that they're going to put in should there be a fire? They can't certainly get access to the property behind my house to put it out, even though they did nicely put a fire hydrant there. There's a telephone pole blocking that fire hydrant from the city's fire department to get there. So if they can't use that fire hydrant, how safe is my house from what you just had approved to put in? I'm like, that's why I'm standing before you here today. So the perimeter road doesn't exist. Then if you look at the power pole, that's supposed to be going underground. We've been told this at a local community meeting that the power pole was going underground. That still has not happened. I don't see any plans of it happening anytime soon. There hasn't been any action by the Markley Group to tell us when it is happening. So, when abandoning the street, you really have to look at the concept of how, if there's a problem at the corner of Gorham and Moore Street, is the closest firehouse going to put out a fire that's going to directly be probably right at my back door? There's no way for them to get to my back door if that is blocked. That's why I say this is a secondary emergency access route that needs to be left open. So they've split it into 3 parcels. You've got parcel A, which is the unnamed street. That street was taken by eminent domain. 2 houses were taken by eminent domain for the Prince Macaroni factory to use it for shipping into their property. That's fine. I've tried to work with the Markley Group repeatedly at the neighborhood meetings to get them to say, if you want to take parcel A and do something to beautify it, to make a beautiful entrance, then do it like an Adopt an Island campaign with the city of Lowell and have them beautify that space. They shot that down. They want parcels B and C, which is where I'm standing before you today to say no. That is the portion of Prince Ave and the portion of Carter Street. That needs to remain open. They want it closed off. Now they say, oh, we're going to give you emergency access on Prince Ave. Does not make any sense, because if the corner of Gorham and Moore Street is blocked, the way to come down to get to that property would be Carter Street. Again, this was brought up in numerous neighborhood meetings with the Markley Group. They refused to listen. They refused to change their plans. The Carter Street entrance is the most logical one because their firehouse is right on that side. They'd have to go around the corner of Gorham and Moore Street to get to the Prince Ave emergency access route that they're planning. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't help save anything if that route is blocked by a major event. So that's why, another reason why I'm here today to say parcels B and C need to be removed from the public hearing or the vote not occur on that. Leave it open, please. Now, the Markley Group, the property, they've been saying is very much secure. Now, 2 weeks ago, as you know, you voted on those tanks. Now, there's several ways, including from Iowa Street, my very street, that property can be very easily breached. Now, some of the folks from the city council who did come out to my neighborhood, I pointed it out to them. Now, my street's not the only way that you can breach their property. There's also a problem on Bourne Street. Now, if you can breach their property so easily and you're going to put that much diesel fuel, if you're saying double-walled tanks are the way that this is going to be the solution to it, it doesn't matter if you've got kids running around in there. Now, I know that they do have a security company, but the Markley Group is saying that they're going to be moving their security clearance, their security guard shack, down to the end of that unnamed street, putting them clear out of line of sight of that actual tank storage area. Now, we have been told through neighborhood association meetings, once again, that they're going to be putting in cameras. These cameras, the security that they talk about, does not exist at this time. Again, we're putting the cart before the horse. It's like all of these improvements that they're talking about do not exist yet, and yet we're going to give them this street and mess up the entire safety of a neighborhood when they're saying that when their future clients, they've told us through neighborhood meetings, their future clients may be banks that are high interest targets for heaven only knows what. It almost sounded at one of the meetings that they were talking about possible terrorism activity on their property or becoming a terrorist target because what they're putting in there is so high powered. Why would I be so up in arms otherwise if they're going to bring this kind of sensitive data information, stick it behind my house, tell me that, then tell me that you're going to put above ground tanks directly behind my house, and then say, okay, well, now the security, we're going to look at that later and it's going to be implemented. Now, my thing with them is that they keep on changing their plans. So originally, they were supposed to have the fuel tanks in the back part of the property. They've already changed and put 4 of them there. What's to stop them from coming before you again to put the remaining tanks there? So that's even more. So that's what my concern is that this keeps on evolution, that it keeps changing, and that there's nothing that you can do after you've already sold this portion of the property to them, should they choose to change the entire plan and not even put that access road in. There's a lot of what-ifs right now with the Markley Group and not a lot of we have. That is what I'm coming to you guys today and saying, this is not the right time for this. This really needs to be postponed or canceled altogether. But postponement, until they can deliver on what they've promised thus far, it needs to be postponed at the very least. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Forts.
My name is Nancy Forts. I live at 36 Iowa Street, which is off of Prince Ave, and this is the only way to get to my street. It is a dead-end street. And I'd like to start by saying we've called it the new street in our neighborhood since Pellegrino, got the 2 houses taken by eminent domain. I am not opposed to Markley taking that new street as an entranceway to their property. This, it doesn't bother me. But what I am opposed to is parcels B and C, where there is abandoning property of the city of Lowell, of the end of Carter Street and the beginning of Prince Ave. And these two streets, as I've stated in the past, needs to be kept open for emergency purposes, because there have been many, many problems on Moore Street, which is the only other way to get to my house from the firehouse on Gorham Street. We've had poles down where people have hit them. They've closed that part of Moore Street. We've had floods when it's raining a lot. We've had fires. Trucks get stuck under the bridge, and that intersection is closed off. And the only way to get to my street, other than Moore Street, is to go down Carter Street to Prince Ave. And this is why I'm opposed to it. And also, they say that the fire department has signed off on this. I haven't seen anything in writing. It's all word of mouth. And I also would like to say that Mark Lee said that there can be emergency vehicles that can get through Carter Ave, even though it would be shut off. But their plan, which they didn't bring tonight, I guess, shows plants and trees. You can't get anything through that if you're going to plant that stuff. And they also say that there's going to be an access road behind my house for emergency vehicles to go around the plant. There is no road. In fact, what there is craters of dirt that they have been digging in since last year, and big giant boulders that they have piled up. And there's no way you're going to get a truck through that, a fire truck. There's a fire hydrant right behind my house. I don't know if it's hooked up to any water source. It's sitting there. But there is no way to get to this fire hydrant. So these three houses, 34 Iowa Street, 36 Iowa Street, and 37 Iowa Street, directly abut Mark Lee's property. And they are not up on Iowa Street itself. They're in the back. So if there's a fire there, it's going to be all the harder for emergency vehicles to get there. And this is why I'm opposed to having the parcels B and C abandoned, is used as abandoned property by the city of Lowell. They can have the new street down to their entrance, but I'm opposed to the other. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is to refer this to a public hearing for July 12th at 7 o'clock. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mick. If I could make a suggestion, I know these people have been here many times on this subject. We've heard from the petitioners also many times. Some presentations are better than others that they have given us. The information we have for this to a public hearing is a little better than normal, but maybe if I can make a suggestion that maybe Councilor Leahy could hold a public safety subcommittee meeting at that property where everything could be explained to us as a council, including the fire department to be there as well, to give us their blessing, to show us what would happen in case of an emergency. Maybe put it off for another 2 weeks, just so we get all the information to the council, to us, before we make a vote on it. So I would ask that we do a public safety subcommittee meeting at that property.
Councilor Rourke is as a motion, is suggesting that the Public Safety Subcommittee conduct a meeting at the site. Do we have a second by Councilor Samaras? Discussion on the motion, Councilor Leary.
No, I agree with that. I think that's an excellent idea. I actually went out and took a look at the property. I think part of the issue too is also Andrew Street, making sure that there's an access there, not just an access, but a clear access. And also the fence. If you're looking at their property, the fences, you could literally you don't even need to see the fence, because the way their property abuts the Mark Lee property now, it really no need for a fence, because you just walk right over it. You would fall pretty dramatically, but I think that's a great idea. I think the project itself is probably going to be approved and probably should be approved. I just think we need to make sure we clarify all the issues that are out there, and I think Councilor Rourke's suggestion is an excellent one to get all that out there. Thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, so your motion really would be an amendment to the motion that's on the floor now. The motion that was on the floor already was to send this to a public hearing for the 12th. And so you're amending that motion, that, if I'm correct, you're amending the motion so that we would still have the public hearing on the 12th, but before that time, there would be the public the Public Safety Subcommittee would hold a meeting on the site. Is that correct?
If scheduling allows us to have it before the public hearing, great. If we have to put it off for another meeting or so, I don't have a problem with that either.
Well, I guess if we went forward with the public hearing, at the conclusion of the public hearing, action could be delayed until the Public Safety Subcommittee met. But is that your?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so on the amendment, Councilor Elliott, on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't oppose that there is going to be a subcommittee meeting on this. I think that these details would be better off ironed out through you, Mr. Manager, and Markley and the neighborhood group. They've met a number of times. I think there are a couple of things that I have gathered from the neighbors. I understand their point with the tanks, and if additional tanks are going to be put in that same location, I wouldn't support that. I mean, I can understand the concern that the neighbors have. There's already tanks there. But secondly, this perimeter road, was that part of the site plan review that is required, and it's just a matter of timing, or?
Councilor, we're just on the amendment now.
Yeah,
And then
I know we're on the amendment.
The amendment passes, then we'll be on the whole item itself.
Well, I'd like to know the status of that before I vote on that,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, go ahead.
Because if not, then, this is an incredibly important project. We approved a TIF on this project. It's bringing jobs. Is it $100 million? $200 million? So, and I understand the point, but we have we've had commitments from the one Markley that say they are going to keep Carter and Prince open for emergency access. I think that's what the residents want. I think that's important, and if that's going to take place, then I think the residents are satisfied. And the only other outstanding item is the perimeter road, and I understand. I've walked the property, and and thirdly, which it's been a chronic problem unrelated to Markley, but certainly is going to is concern, is Moore and Gorham. It's a disaster of an intersection, and I know that I have filed motions, and maybe Council Leahy did too, to see if we can reconstruct. It's Meadowcroft where the problem exists as well. So I think simultaneously we can look at that, but I think this is an incredibly important project that we don't want to delay, because there are expansion plans that'll come soon after. So I think it can be a win-win all the way around if that emergency access for Carter and Prince is confirmed for residents here. So I mean, if the public hearing, if the subcommittee is going to be, hold that before, but they've been to the neighborhood organization and they support it with the provision that there's still access. So I'll support it, but as long as, you, Mr. Manager, can get one Markley and get some answers to, to the residents and to the council, I think it's important we move forward on this. It's been before us for a while.
Okay, on the amendment, all in favor of the amendment?
What's the amendment again?
The amendment is to have your subcommittee conduct a public hearing on the site before the 12th of July.
All right. I don't think I can do it before the 12th. I can do it by the 26th meeting, but
Okay. So, well, then, it would have to be by the 26th then.
is that all right? To the maker of the motion? Okay.
That's okay?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right, so on the amendment, all in favor of the amendment, all opposed, the amendment passes. So the amendment now is part of the motion, and the motion is to have the public hearing on July 12th. Council Leary, then Council Belanger. He's all set. Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some great points have been made on both sides of this, and but you know what? For clarification, Attorney George Elides, their lawyer, he's here in the room. Could we just have him chime in on this a little bit to what's been discussed to this point, on communication, and what their intention is from here, if you don't mind? I'd like to ask Attorney Elides to come up to the podium and give us this little update, if you don't mind. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, Council. Good. Attorney Elides.
Good evening. George Elides, Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. I represent the Markley Company locally. The first thing I want to say is what's on the agenda this evening is for people to consider sending this out to a public hearing. This gentleman has been at every neighborhood meeting. He was here previously and spoke on the issue, and I have no problem with that, except that I think we've heard the same thing over and over. It's not only the same thing over and over. We haven't had, he raised all these questions. We have the answers to those questions. That's what the purpose of the public hearing is. We'll lay it all out for you. We'll show you how the fire department, the police department, the ambulance service, and everybody approves of our plan and what's there. That's for them to decide. I'm asking you to keep it on the schedule. I'd love to have you all come to a meeting. I'll see you there tomorrow or any day you want to show you the whole place and show you everything else. And by the way, just as an aside, there's 10 times more fuel sitting in the basement of Macy's on Washington Avenue, on Washington Street in downtown Boston than we're talking about here, all permitted and all taken care of. So these are the kinds of things, given the opportunity to show you the case. It's tough. I'm shadow boxing. I never get a chance to talk about this stuff. We have all of the answers to all of those problems. We need to move forward. This process started, the request to purchase this property back in September. And we've gone through a request for proposals and everything else. We've done everything the right way that the city manager has directed us to do on behalf of the city. All we're asking is give us the opportunity to bring the matter to your public hearing. If you want to see the place, I'd love to have you come and see the place. I'll do it. I'll ask you to make your motion just to come and see our place prior to the public hearing. But please, don't put us off another trip. That's what I'm asking.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilor, could I suggest maybe there's another subcommittee that would be that could act more quicker than the Public Safety Subcommittee? It is the summer, and I understand that maybe everybody can't be available all of the time, but maybe the Neighborhood Subcommittee would be able to meet before the 12th of July, or
I think a simple site visit, a scheduled site visit for elected is simple as that. I don't think you need to go to a subcommittee with the time constraints we're under. And at the request, I like Council Rourke's idea, really, but we just heard from Attorney Eliades, this is under time constraints. It's a very large project, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they are asking to stick to the timelines, and I think scheduling a simple site visit with the neighborhood, the councilors, is as simple as that, without going to a subcommittee.
we all just voted to send it to a subcommittee unanimously.
I'll do it next week on Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay, all right,
Just
so
figure
we're
it
we're
out.
good to go. Councilman Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support sending it to the public hearing for the 12th, and I certainly will do my best to be at the subcommittee meeting. But I would ask the city manager to have the public safety personnel here at the public hearing, even though we'll probably see them at the subcommittee meeting. I think it would be good for the viewing audience to, since it's going to be off-site, to have the fire chief here, have the police chief here, and have someone from the EMS or EMT here as well. So again, just to really make sure that people are satisfied with what's being proposed. Thank you.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel we have a good proposal here, but antennas go up when I hear people say that you're jeopardizing the safety of the neighborhood. That, to me, scares me to the point where I think we ought to look at this a little bit more carefully. Even though it is a good proposal, it's a good project, it's amazing, but I want to make sure that the safety of the residents of the neighborhood is number one. And I think they'd be amenable to the tanks, and I know that they'd be safe if the fire chief says so and they're under Macy's department store, or else I'd never probably shop there again. But the fact is, I want neighbors to feel that there's an access road for when they need a fire truck.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion as amended? All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Moving on to the next item, and that motion includes item 10.3. Right, everybody understands that. So moving on to item 6.1, ordinances. We have an ordinance amendment to create a cultural affairs and special events program assistant and establish a salary in the city manager's office. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading and refer to a public hearing on July 12th, 2016. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rourke. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, resolutions from the city manager. There's a resolution opposing the charter school caps. We have a motion to approve. Motion approved by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. Roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a communication from the city manager requesting approval of a constable bond for Ronald E. Berthium. We have a motion to approve. Motion approved by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. Discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have subcommittee reports. We have two subcommittee reports this evening. And the first is on the Neighborhood Subcommittee of June 27, 2016.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last evening, June 27th at 6:30 p.m., the Neighborhood Services Subcommittee held their meeting at Eagle Park off of Hampshire Street in the Centerville section of the city. Along with the subcommittee, Councilors Leary and Council Mercier attended, Manager Murphy, along with DPD Assistant Director Kevin Coughlin, as well as Assistant City Manager Mike McGovern, Water Commissioner Eric Gitchia, Building Commissioner Sean Shanahan, and from the DPD, Julie Timon and Patty Luckin. It was another well-attended neighborhood meeting with the residents of Centerville. We were there to discuss the redevelopment of the old water building on Hampshire Street. A presentation was given by Ms. Timon and Ms. Luckin concerning some of the possibilities, a concept that was presented to the neighborhood that would take the building down, clean up the area, and establish a community garden through Mill City Grows. There was a number of back and forth between the residents and the presenters. Commissioner Shanahan spoke of the cost of taking the building down. Water Commissioner Gitchia spoke of the history of the building, how it did tie into the neighborhood, and the use that it has right now, which is basically is nothing to the area. Multiple speakers on the city's behalf spoke. The concept hopefully could be done within a short period of time once and when and if the money is available to fund the project. This wouldn't be the first time. It's not going to be the first time we talked about this. The city officials that spoke to the residents said we will be back again to further refine the concept of hopefully a community garden, some other ideas that will put into place, maybe an expansion of basketball courts or skate park and so forth. So once again, Mr. Mayor, it was a well-attended meeting by both city officials and by residents. A lot of information was passed along. Everybody had an opinion on the subject matter, and I'm sure we'll be back there again in the near future to refine it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. The Chair will entertain a motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is a subcommittee report from the Personnel Subcommittee for a meeting held on June 28th, 2016. Council Milonazo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Personnel Subcommittee, made up of myself, Council Elliott, and Council Belanger, met this evening at 5:30 to discuss the performance evaluation of City Manager Murphy. Also in attendance, we had Mary Callery, our HR director. I do have two motions to bring forward on behalf of the subcommittee, but let me just say that I want to thank my colleagues for taking the time to fill out what really is a very detailed evaluation form. There's over 40 different ratings that we rated the city manager on from a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being weak and 5 being strong. And based upon a review of all of the 9 evaluations that the city clerk was able to go through, the city manager had an overall rating of 4.6, which is very strong. And congratulations to the city manager. My colleagues on the subcommittee talked about the past couple of years working with City Manager Murphy and how transparent his administration is and how well he does work with the state delegation, the federal delegation, and obviously the city council. So two motions that the subcommittee would like to bring forward tonight is to adjust City Manager Murphy's salary to the budgeted amount in the FY17 budget to $190,000 for fiscal year 17. That's the first motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjust the city manager's salary to $190,000 annually by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Leary. Discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Council Milonazo.
And the second motion, Mr. Mayor, is to make the all 9 evaluations made public. We did submit them to the city clerk, so he has them. So it would be our intention that those evaluations be made public. So I would move that they be made public.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion? Second by Council Mercia. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted.
And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, now we have 3 items from the wire inspector. Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would make a suggestion that we bundle 9.2, 9.3, and 9.4.
Okay, we have a motion to bundle and approve items 9.2, 9.3, 9.4. These are 3 items from the wire inspector that have gone to public hearing that have to do with telephone poles and a conduit. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All opposed? So voted. So the motion is to accept and adopt the accompanying order. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Next, on the petitions, we have one property claim. The chair would entertain a motion referred to the law department for report and recommendation by Council Samaras, seconded by Council Milonazo. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Next is under miscellaneous is Network Building and Consulting request permission to lease a portion of city property near Methuen Street for a telecommunications facility. The proper motion would be to refer to the law department for a report and recommendation by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Council Leary. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Next, we move on to council motions. The first motion of the evening is by Council Leahy. Request that the city manager have the opiate task force convene to discuss the Lowell General Hospital $100,000 grant. It is voted by the council on June 14, 2016. Seconded by Council Leary. Council Leahy.
Thank you. So I understand the next meeting will be in July yeah. So what I was looking for is just more, if we could have a discussion in depth on how the money was distributed and how it was used and how they plan to distribute the remaining amount of money in the school system. So I'm kind of concerned that there was $100,000 and it may have gotten chewed up or used up in more talk than actual classroom instruction. So that's the purpose of the motion.
Council Leary.
No, I think it's a good motion. I think really articulating how they're going to use it, really explain it. I think when they were here earlier, it wasn't really a great explanation. So I think we need to go through exactly what they think, what timelines. So I think it's a good motion, it's a timely motion, and it's something that's desperately needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Council Belanger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with my colleagues. That answer we got from the Health and Human Service Director was completely, I'm just not satisfied the length of time that it's taking, and so little kids that we have 14,000 students, and it's touching 300 the first year, so I don't know what's going on here. It just seems like it's a lot of money and doing too little for a lot of money, so I'd like some answers, so I think I'll support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. So, Mr. Manager, when Lowell General contacted the city with this offer or gift of $100,000, did it come with specific criteria, or was it general just for opiate abuse education?
Mr. Manager.
My understanding was it was for general opiate abuse.
And so with that, it's the responsibility of the city, i.e. the health department, to use that money to develop a curriculum to place in the schools. That was my understanding from the new health department.
My understanding was that the direction was to make sure that we educated, we used it in the Lowell school system to educate the
Well,
students.
this is a good motion, and we need to find out exactly, are they going out for an RFP to come up with a standard class format, standard curriculum to go, that's appropriate for, well, I don't know, you know, K through 5? I mean, K through 4, I don't think it's too early to start educating with age-appropriate material anyone regarding this. So I presume, and this is why this task force should meet, to find out exactly what the intent or how they're going to go about doing this, knowing that this should be hitting the classrooms, you know, in 60 days or as soon as the kids are back in school. So I support the motion, and I'll plan on attending that. Lowell General also, there's also a monthly meeting. Is it the Greater Lowell Health Alliance? I'm sure Carrie Detremont and her and that task force may be able to provide some direction on this as well. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I too support that motion. I think when this grant was brought to our attention, there was some talk that some monies would be taken aside to do some planning. I mean, I think this money should go directly to implementing the program. And I think before, I really don't think that the grant was thought of as being that important, but the opioid crisis is really is something that the city council is concerned with, in plain English. And I think what we have to do is ensure that this money is spent in a very meaningful manner. And I just don't want to see this money going out to give some jobs out to, we'll say, deal with some of the situation. I think this money can be utilized very well, and I'd like to see a task force developed that just talks about how best to utilize or spend this money. Make it simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is a motion by Council Leary, requested the city manager report on the status of the upkeep of the grounds for the John Cheehy Memorial Park on Pawtucket Street, seconded by Councilor Leahy. Council Leary.
Speaks for itself. I think I got a call from a couple of folks regarding it. It actually was upkeep, I guess, last week they actually cut it. But really get a report on who's supposed to maintain it and make sure it's on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councilor Mercia.
Is John Cheehy Memorial Park any place near Fred Cheehy Park? Is that the same or a different park? Are there two
This
different?
is across from Burbeck's.
Yeah, so is the Fred Sheehy. Is this Fred, are there two parks?
I think we're safe if we call it Sheehy Park.
I think so, because I thought it was Fred Sheehy.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is a motion by Council Leary, requested the city manager report on the status of the dirt parking lot on Pawtucket Street adjacent to the University of Massachusetts and Lowell South Campus. And the report should include recommendations to pave and/or improve the current status of the lot. Seconded by Council Leahy. Council Leary.
Just it's adjacent to the Sheehy Park. I mean, ultimately, I don't even know if it's UMass Lowell property at this point, but it's, you know, a couple of folks have called me again, similar to the same question. It's a nice parking lot from a standpoint of getting access to the park along the river. It's dirt. It's built, you know, like you're going mud bogging. Really, it's not a positive thing to be there. Anything we can get a report on who really owns that parking lot and what we can do to change it, whether or not we pave it or just smooth out some of those areas, would be nice. Thank you,
Mr. Manager.
Yes, we own this parking lot, but we lease it to the University of Massachusetts, Lowell, so we'll look at the lease. My memory, I know I've looked at it before. I've driven down there also to look at it in the different ruts. I think they have the obligation to maintain it, so we'll follow up and make sure that's being done.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is a motion by Council Mercy, request that the city manager invite the new owner of the Spinners, David Haller, to a city council meeting to introduce him to the city council and viewers and to address them as well. Seconded by Council Rourke. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On June 17th, the city council had the opportunity to go there to the 20th anniversary of the Spinners and to be introduced to this gentleman, Dave Heller, and I thought it would be nice to bring him forward before the city council so that some of my colleagues who weren't there to meet him and the people at home watching could meet him. I think that would be nice. Offer him some time to speak and talk about his beautiful park and how excited he is. He's really a tremendous gentleman, and I want the public to see firsthand themselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening also is by Council Mercy. Request that the city manager instruct the Superintendent Taylor to have officers patrol any vehicles with loud or objectionable noise emitting from exhaust systems. Seconded by Council Leahy. Council Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Of course, we're approaching good weather now. The summer is here. Well, with that brings loud mufflers in people's cars, and it's quite unobjectionable. It's just unbelievable, and I think people are frustrated with that. Having said that, a gentleman met me before the meeting started, and he alluded me to the fact that in Elkhart, Indiana, a small town with 52,000 people, they have a very enforceable anti-noise publicity campaign. It lessens the noise level, and it has improved the community's quality of life, and it has reduced crime as well. They're determined to eradicate noise pollution in the city from boom boxes, broken mufflers, train whistles, loud motorcycles, and other sources by initiating a zero-tolerance noise ordinance. And if you've ever walked down the street or come out of your property and someone went by with a very loud, screeching vehicle, that would take your heart and make it skip a few beats. So I think that we ought to be mindful of people and try to do the right thing. I'm not saying that someone that just lost their muffler by going in a pothole or whatever, we should go after them, but there are people that look for attention and they do something to their muffler that makes us all suffer with it. If they're looking for attention in that respect, I say we give it to them. We give them a severe fine. The first offense could be $250. I know we could probably warn them maybe. Then the second offense would be $250, but we ought to do something to the point where we send a message. If you want to be heard, we'll hear you and we'll fine you. So, I mean, I always believe that we should warn someone first of all. We'll give you a warning, but if we hear it again, the fine will be severe. In Indiana, they actually paid for a person to be have a job enforcing this, because the noise ordinance fines paid for that person's salary. So I'm not saying we're going to do the same, but, you know, there are people that probably don't voice their opinion to you, but they certainly do tell me, and I've heard it myself. You must have heard it yourself. They rev their engine and they think they're pretty cool, but they're hurting the people around them. And I'm thinking, with the good weather, they're doing that, and I want them to pay for it. Either fix up your vehicle or, you know, you're going to be fined for it. We're not going to put up with this. That's noise pollution is what it is. And they got the boom box going, and I know we're going to hear something about the decibel level, and we got to have a decibel machine. No, we don't. What's unobjectionable is unobjectionable. So I think we should have that campaign in the city this summer. That's my motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think this is a good motion, and I would like to also ask Mr. Manager, how many citations have we written, if the police department has written? It's one of these nuisance ordinances that we have enacted, and I think we need to write some citations as well, because it's a right of us who don't want to listen to this loud music, and I think it's more than a nuisance. It's obnoxious, and it's a quality of life issue. And I think those that do drive throughout the city, whether it's during the day or late at night, blast it intentionally. because they feel nothing's going to be done about it. And I think if we send a message, and we should fine them, and I think it's appropriate. There's a law on the books, and we should let the chief know that we've received a number of complaints, and furthermore, it's a law like everything else. And I know they have their hands full, but I think it's a good motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is a motion by Councilor Samaras. Request that the city manager provide an update regarding the status of the Hamilton Canal District parking garage. Seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Mr. Manager, I think we all know that the parking garage for the Hamilton Canal area is most important. And I'd just like to see a timeline update, and especially what is happening at the federal level, so we can have some idea as to when that garage will be started. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is a motion by Councilor Belanger. Request that the city manager of the proper department clean all gateways entering the city in preparation for the Lowell Folk Festival. Seconded by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. It's more or less a ritual motion for myself that I've been making for the last 3 years that, it's time. We're going to have 150,000 visitors to the city, to Lowell, for the 30th anniversary of the Lowell Folk Festival, I might add, so it could be ramped up even more. But it seems like this year I've received more complaints than any of gateways, whether it be Plain Street, Route 110, coming off the connector, that really the overgrowth is waist-high, trash, and, I try to explain to people that some of it is state-owned, but the thing is that it reflects on us, and I think somehow we got to start doing a better job, and not just when a large festival takes place. So I'll wait for the manager's response. I'm sure every year it's a great job, but I just think we need to be a little more repetitive than we are at this time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The last motion of the evening is a motion by Councilor Belanger. Request that the city manager update the council regarding the progress on the Smith Baker Center rehab plan. Seconded by Councilor Mercy. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking to get a plan from Yun Ju Choi, the Coalition for a Better Acre, regarding the progress and what her plan is. I know it's a $12 to $14 million commitment, but since then she's committed to 2 or 3 other projects that are several $1 million as well. And it's just this vision of the Smith Baker is just tremendous, and this council adopted it wholeheartedly. So I'd like to know what the status is going forward, and just an update more or less. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. That concludes the motions. Does anybody have any announcements? Councilor Milonazo.
I actually don't, but I'm going to look to the city manager. What's the city's plan for the fireworks, just so the viewing audience can get an update? Thank you.
The fireworks are on the 4th of July, and it's going to be at LaLasha Ballpark. And there's going to be family fun events there also, concessions, and the fireworks. I believe it starts at, the fireworks are at 9.
Right.
But
Doors open at 7.
At 7, fireworks at 9, and then I was there last year, and it was well attended, and it's a fun night.
Thank you. Good announcement. Any other announcements? Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Motion made by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All in favor, all opposed? Stand adjourned.